Our final instrument family that we will take a look at today is the percussion family of instruments. Now, the percussion family is huge because it involves any instrument that can be hit or scraped or shaken to make noise. Now, we won't have time to look at all of the instruments that you could possibly play, so we'll take a look at just the main instruments that would be used in a band or a symphony orchestra percussion section. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about what does it mean for an instrument to be a percussion instrument. Like I said, it could be some instrument that is hit, for example, a wood block. We can tap on a wood block with a mallet. Or scraped, such as a güiro. Or shaken, such as the maracas. There's a couple different ways to classify percussion instruments. First, we could talk about pitched or unpitched instruments. Pitched percussion instruments are any instrument that can play a melody because there's different parts of the instrument set up to play different notes. For example, a xylophone is a pitched percussion instrument. An unpitched percussion instrument would be any instrument that just makes a noise that you can't sing or play a melody with, kind of like our wood block. Great for playing rhythms, not for playing melodies. So that's pitched or unpitched. Another way we could classify them is what's called idiophones or membranophones. Idiophones is a fancy word that just means that the thing itself makes sound, kind of like our wood block. So we could have wooden idiophones. The wood is making the sound. We could have metal idiophones like the cowbell. Or we could have idiophones that are shaken because they involve things being inside of a container, like beads or beans inside of a wooden or gourd shaker. Our other group of percussion instruments are the membranophones, and that's just a fancy word for saying anything that has a membrane stretched across the top, like a drum. Here I've got a hand drum called a tabano that you play with your hands. Another kind of membranophone you might play with sticks or mallets, such as the snare drum. Now that we know a little bit about different possible percussion instruments, let's take a quick look at the specific ones we would typically see in an orchestra or a band. Our first main instrument for the percussion family in a typical band or orchestra are the timpani drums. Timpani drums, as you notice in the picture, there's usually several of them because these are actually a pitched drum. Each one is tuned to a certain note. There's also a pedal at the base that pulls down on the rim of the drum to change the pitch, so they can actually slide between pitches or retune themselves in the middle of a song. Here's what the timpani could sound like. Notice the different pitches, high and low, and even sliding between the notes. Another drum that you'll see in almost any orchestra or band is the bass drum. This very large drum has a head that you hit on one side, and because it's so large, it plays very low resonant sounds, like this. One common use of the bass drum is to play the beat in songs such as marches in a band. The third drum you'll see very frequently and use even in beginning band is the snare drum. The snare drum has got little wires underneath the drum that rattle against the bottom head when it's hit on the top, like this. For the pitched percussion, one instrument that you might already be familiar with is the xylophone. Now, a typical xylophone in a band has 2 rows of bars, as you can see in the picture. The bottom row is like the white keys on the piano, and the top row would be like the black keys. You have to be able to read all of the notes on the staff so that you know which notes to play on the xylophone. Similarly, we also have the glockenspiel. Just like you might have played these in your classroom, the glockenspiel is made of metal bars that ring when hit with hard mallets, but just like the xylophone, it has 2 rows, the lower ones for the white keys on the piano and the upper ones for the sharps and flats, the black keys. Most people will recognize the cymbals as well. Here are some crash cymbals, which are picked up and hit against each other to make loud crashing sounds. Cymbals can also be hung from a stand and played with mallets as well. There are several other instruments that get played too occasionally, and those are usually grouped in the term auxiliary percussion. They might include anything such as the triangle, the woodblock, tam-tams, chimes, or even the temple blocks, and many, many more, depending on the song that you're performing. Because there are so many different instruments, usually the percussion section have to work together to coordinate who is going to play each instrument at what time. Now, although it's really fun to play percussion in beginning band in middle school, it also comes with a lot of responsibility. Because you have so many different instruments to learn and to practice the specific technique for each one so that it sounds good, you already need to know your basic music reading skills really well, both the rhythms as well as the pitches on the staff. Your band teacher will want to see that you're already really good at those before they let you play percussion, because they want you to be able to focus on the instrument and not on your reading skills at the same time. There might be a different instrument that's a better fit for you if that's not the case. They used to require that you take at least 2 years of private piano lessons before doing percussion. That's not exactly the case anymore, but they will audition you and have you try out for them to see if percussion is a good fit for you, and you're able to read the music on the staff very carefully. I wish I could show you all of the instruments that you would play in band percussion, but I don't have all of them with me because some of them are quite large and difficult to transport around. So let's take a look at another video of a professional percussionist with the Utah Symphony demonstrating a lot of the different instruments that we looked at today.